I am John Joe Kavanagh, and I am delighted to be here in this historic location in Kilshannig Church, just within a stone throw of Durmahan and about 4 miles west of Mallow, in the old barony of the O'Callaghans, the Tua district of the O'Callaghans. This is where Thomas Russel was baptized, right beside me here in this font here in the corner of the old church. Russell Thomas was of the ascendancy Protestant class, and he had 3 brothers and 1 sister. His father was in the British Army, and as a result, Thomas was intended to be of the same educational facility and to pursue his livelihood in that army. He was transferred to India, where he didn't like what he had seen in the submission of the native Indians, or I suppose Indians I'll call them, at that particular time. On returning home, he was dismissed from the army, and he became a friend of Tone and Nappertandy, Thomas Addis Emmet, Robert Emmet, and Lord Edward Fitzgerald, and all the other leaders of the 1798 Rising. The strange thing about it, the first time I heard of Thomas Russell was in the National School in West Kerry.
Where? What part?
Very close to Brandon Creek, we called Coos. Right. And I suppose I never lost interest in local history since that time, as my grandfather was also very interested in history and in all that involved as I was growing up.
What was your grandfather's name?
My grandfather's name was John Dady, or Didi as we call it around here. And my grandfather taught under the old system for a very short period of time, the old monitor system, for a very, very short time. Whether he was dismissed or not, I have no idea. Right. But he pursued his livelihood afterwards as a fisherman. Now, getting back to what I was saying about Russell and meeting with the leaders of the 1798 rebellion, Russell did not really participate in the rebellion as such, but he was imprisoned and served 6 years in Fort George in Scotland. Now, having returned from Fort George in Scotland, he became intensively involved in organising the United Irishmen in Ulster. And of course, the spies were very active in pursuing his activities. Russell was eventually captured, and as a result, the spies, and having £1,500 on his head. I suppose £1,500 in those days was an enormous sum of money, and he had no chance of escaping the clutches of the law. Being imprisoned, they had false witnesses against him, and he was condemned to death. Now, the death that the unfortunate Russell got was to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. That was a most diabolical way of dying, of punishment. Only the lowest of the lowest, with the most heinous crimes, suffered that way of dying. But that was the law of the British.
What year was that, John Joe, that he was executed?
Executed in 1803. Okay. Now, Russell was born in Durmahan in 1767 and executed and died in Downpatrick in 1803. I'm going to recite a poem about Russell. This poem projected him as a man of importance all over the country, and written by Florence Mary Wilson of County Down and published in Dublin it might have been in Cleve Sullish, I'm not too certain of that now, in 1918. Now, this is the poem, and I hope I would give a reasonably good interpretation of what Mrs. Wilson's idea and intention was. I suppose we could imagine now a group of men sitting around the fire in a pub today, talking about politics and talking about life in general. And that's what this group of men were doing in County Down when Russell unexpectedly came among them. Into our townland on a night of snow rode a man from God knows where. None of us bade him stay nor go, nor deemed him friend, nor damned him foe. But we stabled his big roan mare. For in our townland we're a decent folk. And if he didn't speak, well, none of us spoke. And we sat till the fire burned low. We're a civil lot in our wee place, so we made the circle wide around Andy Lemon's cheerful blaze. Sure we wished the man the length of his days, and a good end to his ride. And he smiled, and under his slouching hat, says he, you know, there's a bit of a joke in that, for we ride different ways. And while we smoked, we watched him stare from his seat, forninst aglow. I nudged Joe Moore. You wouldn't dare to ask him who he is for meeting there, or how far he's got to go. But Joe wouldn't dare, nor Willie Scott. And he took no drink, neither cold nor hot. This man from God knows where. 'Twas late when us once braved the air. And may I live or die, I never saw worse than the sleet that night. And I says I bet yous were sleeping there. But at scraig of day, through the window pane, I saw him spur in the pelting rain, and I juked at his roving eye. Getting on past the heat of the year, I rode to Newton Fair. Ah, sure, I sold as I could. The dealers were near. Only £1.8 for the Innis steer, and, well, nothing at all for the mare. I met McKee in the throng of the street, and says he, the grass has grown under our feet since they hanged the young Warwick here. And he told me that France had promised help to a man in Dublin town, and says he, if you got that pike on the shelf, you better get home hot foot by yourself. And once more, take it down. So on the Comber Road I trotted the mare, and never cut corn till Killyleagh stood high on the rising ground. For a ween of days we kept waiting the call to rise and go at it like men. But no friendship sailed into Clahy Bay, and we heard the black news on an autumn day that our cause was lost again. And Joey and me and Wooly by Scott Ah, sure we agree to ourselves we'd be as liefer not to be found in the thick of the slain. All Ulster roared, the women cried, standing alone on the land, and many's the sweetheart and many's the bride waited in vain for their men. But us once braved the thick of it, and sure we used to dander along and sit in Andes side by side. By Downpatrick jail I was bound to fare on a day I remember fet. And when I came to the prison square, the people were waiting in hundreds there, and you wouldn't hear stir nor breath. And the soldiers, aye, the soldiers were standing grim and tall around a scaffold built there forninst the wall. And a man stepped out for death. I was brave and near the edge of the throng, and I knowed that face again, and I knowed the set, and I knowed the walk, and I knowed the sound of a strange up-country talk, for he spoke out right and plain. Then he bowed his head to the swinging rope, and I said, please God to his dying hope, and amen to his dying prayer, that the wrong would cease and the right prevail. For the man they hanged at Downpatrick jail was the man from God knows where. Remíle maith agat. Sinna bhfuil go fóil.
You haven't lost the Kerry accent at all, John Joe.
No, I haven't.
No. Near Brandon Creek, Ballynavanura.
Ballynavanura.
Yeah.
I'm only half a mile from Ballynavanura.
Oh, yeah. All right. There was a castle there, or a ring fort or something.
There was, yeah.
And the museum were digging there. And years ago now, I went down to have a visit. So that's your home territory?
That's my home territory.
Right. You couldn't go more further west.
No, and Boston is the next parish.
Did you ever go abroad?
I did. I've done a lot of travelling.
Of course you did, yeah. That was wonderful. That was really good. Was there a house?
Oh yes, there was. Of course, I intended saying that, okay. But of course, having already said that Russell was of the ascendancy class, he was born in Betsborough House in Dromahane, in the townland of near Dromahane, in the townland of Glashey, and the ascendancy class at one stage embarked and decided, but not very successful, to name the place Fernhill. A beautiful name, of course, there's no doubt about it. But they didn't succeed, and the old name of Glashey was retained, and the old name of Dromahane was retained. Now, I suppose maybe a little agasheen to those. Glashey means the little stream, Glashey, and it's a common element in place names all over the country. And Dromahane itself, a hawn, you have a hain near Mill Street in County Roscommon and various other places. The element is very common. And drum then, the height above the hawn or the or the river crossing, the ford that crosses the river, and say Dromahane is the height above the ford on the river Clyde.